I know. It's by definition.
Let's call the meeting. Vote.
Ben Vitale. Tom Winslow.
Present.
Bob Shay.
Here.
Haley Coolman. Present. Hans Fetcher.
Here.
Mark Strong.
Here.
Heidi Nightingale.
Present.
Elaine Bailey. Here. Amy Sargent.
Here.
Brian Muldrow.
Here.
Jonathan Anna.
President, let's place second. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me for witness. Thank you, BBC. We're going to go out order at this time. We have two resolutions this evening. I'm going to pass this off to Representative Shea. They are planning resolutions.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to thank the board's indulgence. I know we just like last minute walk-on resolutions, but I believe that we just found out notification, our pre-application was a go. And this is only a day or two ago, and we have October 10th deadline. So it was really important that we get these resolutions approved. One is for, and these are resolutions to apply for the grant, nothing more. One is for the replacement of the bridge at Deauville Island, which we've been talking about for quite a while. And the other one is the housing market study. And I don't know if you have any questions, but we can briefly ask Carrie and look a few questions if you like.
Can I move them to put them on the table as a bundle?
I'm sorry.
Let's do them as a bundle. Ledge one moves to first, first,
Any second?
second discussion.
I do have a question. I see the bridge project quite important. I know we've been talking about that. It would be your intent to use the 403,000 from the capital H that has over 600,000 in it.
That's correct.
But I'm just curious, if the timing of this, is there a chance that this wouldn't come to fruition before the end of 26 and therefore realistically, we might not be able to use that capital H because of the deadline?
I mean, it's a valid question. I don't know if I can speak to how long it would take to get a GDA from the state.
Right. I mean, so if we prove this, and I'm not saying we shouldn't, you may have to use those capital H for something different because it has to be spent.
Yeah, there's a possibility of the construction timeline that they've given us is anywhere from 6 to 9 months, depending on the lead and the structure.
Yeah.
But it's the GDA time that
Exactly.
Carrie can tell you better than me though. I mean, it varies from 3 months to 8.
Right.
But they are planning to make award announcements before the end of the year. So it's a very rapid timeline. So we'll know by mid-late December if we're even going to get either of these grants.
So there might be a chance that 400,000 could come out of that ARPA and meet the deadline. And if not, it would have to come from somewhere else. Correct? Okay.
Doug, should we get into the situation where we don't meet the ARPA deadline? Do you have other projects to move forward that could meet the deadline? To
Absolutely.
move over and,
Yep.
okay.
You know, more that would be either put into this year's budget request or some of the larger maintenance projects that we have that are queued up and really could be contracted pending the availability of funds.
That's on your radar to make sure those
Correct.
monies don't go unspent.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Strong.
I understand where they're wanting to get the money from for the bridge, but the housing study, where is that 20% match coming from?
I don't know.
We have a firm commitment of $20,000 from the Auburn Housing Authority. And we have been requested by 4 different foundations and agencies to present to them. One was a presentation to the county IDA just last week for the gap of that 30,000. So we are actively hustling to get the rest of that money for the directive of beginning of the year, not to use any county funds for that project.
But Carrie, just to clarify, there are no county funds dedicated to this project.
Correct.
And this resolution does not dedicate county funds to this project.
Correct.
But, okay, my only question is if the project, it's the total project cost is 150,000.
Yeah.
The grant's 100, you get 30 and another 50, you would still need a 20% match coming from somewhere, correct?
We have 20,000.
But isn't that
And then we
going to be
have
used
30.
towards the project itself? Oh, I thought the total project was 150.
It is, so we're
Okay.
gonna ask for 100 from
Okay.
NRC. We have a firm commitment of 20,000 from the Auburn
So
Housing
you only have to
Authority.
do the 20% on the 100?
Right.
Okay, gotcha.
Any other questions?
Yeah,
Mr. Petrick?
why the heck do we need to do another housing study? You look at the Micron impact statement, for Cayuga County, and what does it say? It says our population for the next 10 years is going to decrease, by, 20,000, I'm not sure the number anymore.
You know,
Then the rest of it is, the impact, from the housing study, it's also going to increase by the same percentage. So what they're saying in the impact statement is, it's basically even. You know, we're losing people as we have been right along. And even with, Micron coming in, we're going to be about where we are now. So why do we have to have a study?
I'll let Ms. Twillinger answer the question. My understanding, Mr. Petra, is that the estimates right now estimate that over 150,000 people within the next 20 years will be converging upon the Central New York District. And the housing shortage, Onondaga County cannot absorb that. And part of the study is to have a regional snapshot of what the current housing stock is, how we might contribute to the expanded growth. I'll let Ms. Twillinger answer that.
Yes, and we've also been told as part of the Cayuga County Background Housing Committee, we've been told by Nucor, Courier, Tessie, the Auburn Hospital, and others, note that are expanding right now, that there isn't housing for the people that they're trying to promote and bring on board. That those people, those applicants are saying there isn't the housing that we need or want here available, so they're sending them to our neighboring counties.
Mr. Strong.
so, I mean, I want to be correct when I heard the chairman say there is no cost to the county on either one of these projects, zero.
On the housing project.
That's on the
there is
housing
county
project,
funds.
there's no common house. On the county, on the project study, on the housing study, there is no common cost.
Because.
There is a 20% match on the bridge project.
There's a 20% match on both projects.
Right.
But that 20% match for the housing study is coming from non-county dollars.
Just one last question. You're not planning on doing the study.
No,
You're going to
we-
contract it out, correct?
Exactly.
Now, if you remember, Mr. Strong, I did support the housing study with the use of county dollars, but since there's no county dollars being involved, I do support the study. Prior to the no county dollars being used, as you're aware, you know, the city of Auburn, towns and villages, they control their local ordinances. The county has no control over housing, so that was my objective at the time. This is not even county dollars. And it is positive for the economic impact of the area. Any other concerns? Yes.
I would just say quickly that with the housing stock we currently have, very few go up for sale. We don't have a large real estate business happening now, probably for these very reasons that Ms. Twilliger has talked about, that the housing stock available is not attractive to those that they're attracting to the hospital and to Nucor, and potentially developing to bring in engineers and highly trained professionals from Micron.
Anyone else? Yes,
Yeah,
Mr.
this is typical government. We study, and then we don't do anything. It's a waste of money, period.
Anyone else? All right, no further comment. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? At this time, I'd like to introduce Roy Fitzpatrick, this is Hannah. Yes, construction management. They're gonna allow us to do an amazing presentation regarding the county office.
Yeah.
Good evening, I'm Jason Hammond, and I serve with Campus Construction Management. I serve as our Director of Project Development, and then I oversee our estimating department. I've been with campus for the last 17 years, looking at estimating. Rory Fitzpatrick is here with me. He's been working with with personnel within your county for the last few months, really trying to assist them in how we establish occupancy back in your county office building. The report that we developed within the last few months outlines costs that are established to either remediate the building, repair the building, demolish the building, and then also visualize a brand new building at a different location. So we just have a small presentation that kind of just shrinks that report down into some digestible information here. So we're going to go through introductions, methodology, project scopes, project budgets, and then just considerations. So again, I'm Jason Hannon, Roy Fitzpatrick. So some methodology that we utilize to build these project budgets for you. And there's a nasty glare on that, so I'm going to let's hear. So I rightfully printed off my own presentation. So the goal of when we were brought on board in early, I believe, June, for the county legislator was to provide you capital project costs to get back into your county office building that has somewhat been shuttered for the last year, I believe. So kind of what we did is we didn't have the assistance of an architect. So we utilized all the information that was presented to us. So we had some old hazardous material reports. We had old floor plans. We had the current air sampling and testing reports that were provided to us. And we as well as working with some of the county staff, we kind of developed scopes of work that would tell us the cost of remediating the building and repairing the building, and then building a new building, and then demolishing the building. So in terms of how we build costs for your projects, the methodology here is, and we typically do this with all our clients in the conceptual phase, right? We're at a 100,000 foot level of a project right now. There's not enough detail for us to get into the weeds and tell you that this piece of equipment, something along those lines, is going to cost this dollar value. We're really way up here at the conceptual level. So we take as much quantity as we can from the building and those existing building floor plans to identify current costs. We utilize our existing database with municipal bids. Predominantly, Campus Construction Management is a construction management firm that works with school districts, other counties to work as their construction manager as well as their estimator to develop their project budgets, put projects out to bid. This year alone, we have $700 million in referendums happening. Last year, we bid out about $350 million in projects, and all projects were awarded to low parent contractors and went on into construction. So we do have a substantial database of costs that we utilize to develop your project skills. And then we build each and every estimate that we do as a total project cost, not just construction. So in the reports and in the numbers that you'll see in the subsequent slides here, we identify escalation costs, we identify construction contingency costs, design contingency, because again, there is no design yet. And as you know, depending on the scope of work that you choose to proceed with, there's still going to be unknowns from today's dollars moving forward throughout the design. There might be building conditions that we don't know as of this juncture. So we identify a contingency for those unknowns, even in design as well as in construction. We identify the percentage on the project for permitting and inspections, especially if you have hazardous materials, you're going to need air sampling reports and final inspections by hazardous air sampling monitors, things of that nature. And then we put in, percentages on top of the construction for the design of the project, as well as potential construction management of it. Obviously, excuse me, obviously, if you want to move forward with a project, you don't need to have a construction manager associated with your project, which could reduce down your costs. But obviously, that's something that we do, and we haven't been awarded any projects to do that. So really, what we did here is we were trying to identify total project costs for the legislator so that they can identify and make a decision to move forward with their county office building. Any questions on some of just the methodology? Okay. So project scopes. So again, we've developed four different projects. One is the remediation of the building. This would be the hazardous material abatement of the building. What would be left would be basically almost an empty shell. However, not all the walls and things of that nature can be removed. They are not contaminated. A majority of the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth floors are actually capped walls. They're metal. They're a metal wall. They're about that thick that demises up all of the offices and the corridors. So those are actually capped, so those don't need to be abated, which was a benefit to the cost of remediation. So, but you do have flooring above the ceilings. You have spray-on fireproofing that is hot for asbestos. The ceilings that are below that fireproofing are now considered contaminated, so those need to be abated. You also have contaminated contents. At this juncture, anything that has been left in that building is contaminated from an asbestos perspective. So it either needs to be cleaned and salvaged or removed as a contaminated piece of equipment and put in a contaminated dumpster and sent off to a specialized waste facility. Salvaging contents, we did work with some of the county staff, some of the IT staff, to identify what equipment based upon a certain dollar value should be salvaged and cleaned and turned back over to the county for utilization in the future in any future building or in the repair of this building. And then, disconnect support of the HVC and electrical systems. Basically, when asbestos abatement contractors go into the space, they own everything. And if they're doing heavy scale demo, we need to kind of disconnect and make safe the electrical systems, HVAC systems, turn down the air handling units, things of that nature, so we're not moving air as they're doing their work and even spreading contamination even further. So that's some of the scope of work for the remediation project. Repairs projects, how we visualize this is after remediation is done, what's left? And then we somewhat through a cost per square foot on a majority of the floors of the building. So that you could imagine it goes back either the exact same as it was, or it could be, sitting with the occupying staff, identifying what their needs are, what their space utilization might be. That's one of the things that could be done in the future with the costs that we've established for the repairs project. We do have the replacing of all the windows in the repairs project, as well as the elevator repairs and replacement. Right now, the elevators are in poor condition and need to be repaired or fully replaced. So those are the things that someone, when you look at the repairs project, it is kind of a whole gamut of we're going to gut the place and rebuild it. And you can, the county can imagine what they want to utilize those different areas for, but also it can be cut back, right? So this is a top level estimate. You can always do value engineering, get a design team in. You might even say you don't need to utilize one of the floors of the building and just use it as storage, things of that nature. Building replacement. When we look at building replacement, what we did is try to identify, you have 70,000 square feet right now. Maybe you don't want to do a 6-story building as your replacement. So we thought of it as a 3-story building, is what is being considered in the cost of the building replacement, but maintain the same parking spaces that you have 65,000 square feet that is owned by the county at the county office building of parking. So we included that, but what it doesn't include is there's no land purchases or anything like that within that project estimate. But it would be basically a brand new two-story building with all, everything up to current code in terms of energy efficiency and things of that nature. And then the demolition cost, this is with the assumption that the remediation has already been done. So this is pure demolition. So taking down a 6-story building in the heart of Auburn is what this project would be. We would disconnect all utilities, bring them back to the main, so the water, the gas, sanitary things of that nature, and then we would basically leave the building footprint, as a green space. That, I guess, if you look around, it would be 15,000 square feet green space, but still have the parking lot to stay. That's how we visualize that.
No matter what we do, we have to remediate. In any of these options? And if we demolish the building, we would still have to remediate it prior?
Yes, you would,
Yes.
you would still need to remediate. Now, if you combine a remediation project with the demolishing of the building, there would absolutely be potential cost savings when you cross the two over, because there are contractors that are demolition and abatement contractors, and they would take on those types of scopes. So there is a potential for that.
Because building replacement means you demolish what you have and rebuild something else. That what you're saying?
No.
Building replacement, yeah,
Yes.
you would replace it, either you could do the same site or you could do a different site. That project scope kind of lands you anywhere. It just doesn't afford you what the purchase of the land would be. So to land 20,000 square foot footprint, right? And then 65,000 square feet of parking lot.
Sir, if I could. You talked about in the repair summary, bringing up the elevators up to, replace them, bring them up to code. I believe that building requires 2 elevators, and that's in the price that you gave the second elevator.
It was 7 stops, I believe, we included within the repairs estimate in the basement line item.
But do we have to have 2 elevators in that building?
I can look back at that. So
And you said something about price per square foot. Do you have that price? Price per square foot?
for which,
The repairs
so
summary.
the repairs I actually detailed that out in the budget there in the estimate. In more detail, but there's things that we did per square foot, HVAC, electrical, and some of the things that we had to come back. Some of the project budgets that we established, again, we're trying to build a project that would include all costs associated with it for the legislator to make a decision on. So we have the subtotal of construction, then we have that allocated construction contingency dollars, permitting and inspections, design and management soft costs, so the design fees, management fees, bond fees, things of that nature would be included within that soft cost line there. And then we have our total project.
So it means $9 million to remediate the building.
So again, that's high level, that's
Yep.
probably as expensive as it will ever be. There might be, once a design team, even designer gets on board, identifies the scope of work. We did have the availability of Lozier Environmental that helped us to establish what the sequencing would be to establish our remediation project budget. But again, that's not a full comprehensive design that has been incorporated into this. Next project budget is the repairs estimate. So a subtotal of construction of about 41 million. And again, that subtotal of construction, that includes escalation for the future, or whenever you put the project out to design and out to bid, as well as that design contingency is included within that subtotal construction. That's what we call the anticipated bid value, right? So when contractors go and bid the project, that's what we anticipate the contract values would total up to. Then we have our construction contingency. permitting and inspections, and then design and management soft costs. And then the whole project value of 51,209,000.
Is that what people would say is the remodeling?
Yes.
Okay,
That's, yep,
Yep.
it includes your windows, it includes those elevator costs, and again, I would have to check on that, whether it included two or just one elevator. And then it would, basically, every single floor would get gutted and built new.
And Jason, that number could fluctuate based upon design criteria of what we choose.
Absolutely. I mean, there's tons of opportunity. Once the building has been remediated, you have a ton of opportunity to reduce costs from what is existing within the spaces already that remains, as well as there's the potential, looking at your space utilization for all your departments that would either be there or stay at any other location. You might not need all of those floors in the future. So you could choose in a systematic fashion to renovate and improve upon each floor at a time if you wanted. Building replacement, so this would be the full replacement of the building, going to, we envisioned it at a new site, not at the existing location downtown, but at a new site, $56 million for the construction of it, identifying and constructing a petition of 2.8, permitting and inspections of roughly $2 million, design and management $9 million, with a total of $69,060,000. And then the building demolition is the last budget here. Total construction cost would be about $6.269,000. Contingency, being that we're demoing out a building, we reduced the demolition percentage or the contingency percentages here. Permitting and inspection of $130,000, design and management soft cost of $658,000, and then your total of about 7.25.
And that's demolition of clean material.
Yes.
is the building replacement contingent on the same size building?
Yes.
6 floors, all of that?
70,000 square feet.
With the 6, with the,
It would be 3 floors.
okay,
So
because that's
we-
much cheaper than,
Yeah, we
yes.
envisioned that you wouldn't need a
Yeah.
6-story building. You
Right.
would actually build out more than you would build up.
So that's good.
Thank you. Just to be clear, this building demolition would have to include 9.6 in the remediation.
Yeah,
So this would be almost an $18 million option.
yes.
Thank you.
But you're saying if we were to remediate and then later decide to demo, that is more expensive than if they were done.
If they were done
together, it'd be
Yep.
cheaper.
Yes.
Okay.
It should, once you combine that, obviously, when you combine project scopes, inefficiency, right? It's economy of scale.
Do you have a sense of, are you talking a couple million?
Maybe it's a potential 15 to 20%,
Okay.
potential savings there.
so to build new, it's more expensive than to remodel the one after you remediate based on your,
Yes, based upon the information that we were given and what we were
Right.
able to put together, it would be more economical to remediate and then renovate.
yes.
Yeah, almost 20 million.
Those are all the, all the project budgets. Some additional considerations that, you might look at is building sale, other building purchases, or, department utilization and spacing requirements. What actually do you need to house that in a new facility versus what that building housed previously. That's all I have today. Yes.
Obviously you said it'd be cheaper to build out instead of up. But we own limited space there. I know that seems like there's a lot of space there, but how big of a footprint do you anticipate building out? In other words,
So it'd be about double the footprint. So in lieu of, because you have 7 stories right now. So instead you would go about 23,000 square feet as your footprint and have 3 stories. Yes.
And we now have 20,000 square feet.
No, you had
70,
70,000 square feet.
Oh, we have 70,000.
Yep.
How'd you land at 3? Just
Made it up in my head. No, it was really, once you get, there's some requirements, once you get above 3 stories, of additional, building construction that you need to take into consideration.
is there any
$70 elevator?
opportunity to
Yes, I
possibly
think about it.
do 2? Like,
Absolutely.
so, is it, I mean, just obviously high level,
Mhm.
would it be, could you look at it as like 1/3 of the building? Like if you're at 1/3 of the cost would be deducted based on if you did 1 floor less?
I don't think you would get a third of a savings by, reducing down to 2 floors. It's really, you're still talking about volume, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day. So it's, how much volume can you reduce the building? And I think that's something that maybe, as you look to make decisions forward, it might be, what do we need that much space? To move forward for, what the services that building needs to provide.
Okay.
If you went with a replacement building there.
If you do a replacement building, you didn't take into consideration, you took away from another location, is that correct?
Yes, I didn't take into consideration building at that location. Just, there's constraints, right, associated with that location. Just being how close you are to a main thoroughfare, within Auburn and building.
What's a thoroughfare?
I'm sorry, a road, a main road. There's a lot of traffic, there's a lot of pedestrians, so there's some additional constraints that would go into building in that location. Not that it can't be done, anything can be done. It just, there has to be a plan and usually sometimes money involved.
Jason, what's your experience about selling buildings in this kind of condition and what?
Yeah, I was gonna ask that.
Just about sales.
I have no experience in selling buildings, but I know Rory has reached out and has done a little bit of investigation.
Yeah, so I know a bunch of developers and, the main thing being built right now or renovated is low income housing. So that's the number one thing going into buildings. Some of these buildings are basically given away by a municipality depending on the conditions that they're in. But there was one Riverside Hotel in Rochester. It's 300,000 square feet, just sold for $7 million. He got $7 million of ARPA funds, $7 million in grant funding from ESD, and he got $22 million worth of tax breaks. So I don't know what the county's willing to do in those sense if they're going to sell, but it sounds like he got his money back from that purchase.
Initially, when we talked about this, I heard people say, well, just walk away, get rid of the building, let someone buy it. But it's contaminated. The likelihood of someone coming in and buying this building for substantial, whatever amount of money, it's unlikely to sell unless it's remediated. I'm just asking.
Yeah, we're not real estate agents, so we can't
Uh-huh.
necessarily comment. The best thing to do would put a for sale sign in and see what
happens.
happens.
Uh-huh.
But, at the end of the day, having to look at the level of contamination,
Yeah.
the level of just getting it to a place where you can start to build is not necessarily appealing, at least. to me.
Yeah.
So, but, again, like I said, if you find someone that's a developer and they have the ability to get that amount money and grants and everything else from the state and other places, tax breaks. I don't know what the answer to that is, but there seems to be that the target right now is low income housing due to the amount of funding they're getting from grants and other places.
It doesn't seem like you looked at what we as a county have to do as a minimum. For instance, a lot of personal product, possessions in there. There's things that the county wants to salvage. And if we were to do, clean out the stuff that we want to salvage and clean out the building without doing the abatement and then put up for sale to be abated, do we have a number of what it would cost us a minimum to at least do those things that we have to do? And I guess that's the other question is, what are the things that we have to do?
You don't have to do anything.
Well,
But if
yeah,
you
you
want,
do.
if you
if you want to salvage the stuff that the county wants,
Yeah, so if you're
you
gonna,
have personal belongings in there that really have to be taken out.
yeah, so Tom Bunn, created an app that has all that information on there, of what can be taken out, what needs to be taken out on each floor.
We did.
So we did take that into consideration. But as far as a bare minimum, that's up to the county.
To answer Ben's question, anything that's taken out of that building has to be decontaminated, and there's a process to go through it and a cost.
Whether you're saving it or throwing it out, there's a process that needs to happen, and there's a cost to that process, yes.
So if I can add a little clarity, we did an inventory of what's in the building. Tom Bunn and his team, did an inventory, they took photographs, they documented what was in the building. There were items that were marked for keeping, there was items that were marked for not keeping that were determined, and that was used in this costing analysis as well. As far as the potential cost of just remediation or removal of those items, cleaning out, we'd have to, get an RFP through those years or a telephone in order to get that information. We did take an inventory of the items in the building, and they are included in this cost estimate. We do have the database available.
Say we just leave the buildings and we expand the building, there is gonna be some upkeep that we have to do. Obviously the roof was a problem, it's not a problem anymore. Is there any things that we have to do so we don't endanger the public or have debris flying around the city of Auburn? Is there anything that you could think of that might be a cost if we have the building the way it is?
I mean, certain things that we've already been helping some of the county with is getting access to some of your critical infrastructure that is within the basement of that building. You have some of your 911 infrastructure as well as some of your IT infrastructure. So we're working with the county to actually identify a scope of work for actually removing those items, getting them out of there. In terms of without creating any building, I'm not gonna be the I don't know the building condition in terms of what would need to be done.
Okay.
I can't make those decisions. There's architects and engineers out there that can make those decisions.
But I want to express to the body that we won't walk away, whatever decision we make, it's still a cost of the building.
Yeah.
And there's also a cost of, possibly keeping out of danger there. Because eventually you do wanna, if we walk away, we won't wanna sell. So the worse it gets, not very.
The longer it's vacant, the less you do to maintain it, the quicker the decay is going to happen. And then you also have safety population, start to look into finding ways into everything.
That's what I was trying to say, about you saying that.
Yeah. As the count, as a personal developer, it's much easier to kind of walk away from a building and just, okay, you guys are a county and municipality. You're gonna wanna keep that building to a certain level. I would assume until it's able to be sold and demolished, so there's, I assume, costs be put into it if you just leave it.
Yep. I mean, and Rory, sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Heidi.
I'm sorry.
Two questions. The first one is roof is fine. Windows need to be replaced, but the rest of the facade is solid.
So there was not an envelope investigation done. But I will say, just from my personal walking around of the building, it is probably one of the best representatives of precast, within a lot of areas that I have seen. You don't have chunks falling off. It seems as though all the joints are strong and good. The exterior veneer of your building seems to be in very good condition.
And then the second question was to clarify, remediating and repairing the building is the least expensive option.
Yes.
Abandoning and trying to sell the building, but building new is the most expensive option.
Yes.
The estimates that you provided today, is those costs based on prevailing wage?
Yes.
Okay, so a contractor could come in here and theoretically do it much cheaper than what we're looking at here. In other words, a general contractor that doesn't have to pay the prevailing wage could come in here.
Private developer.
Yeah, so if you sold the building, they would
Right.
be able to reduce costs. There is becoming a parity of labor costs though within the market, from prevailing wage to, your private labor costs. Because, I think we all know this, is that the construction labor market is scarce within upstate New York. So people even in the private world are demanding more dollars than they ever have before to do projects. So though you have a state required for municipalities and public works for paying prevailing wage, those people that do private work are also, starting to get right at that level of dollar per hour.
Thank you.
They just don't have to pay the supplemental benefits that are required.
That's what they do to it, obviously, too. Office buildings are not just. It's not.
In your experience, and it's fairly extensive around larger buildings and municipal buildings. Just lost my train of thought. Sorry, lost my train of thought while I was.
You have this built in that you forecast out the cost, correct? Can you
Yes.
elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. So obviously, in the cost, we're forecasting an escalation percentage on each one of the projects. Obviously, if the project is going to extend longer, we have a higher escalation percentage based upon the initial cost of construction. For things like the abatement and the demolition, we have a reduced because if you made that decision in the relatively near future, that could be done relatively quickly. But one of the reasons why we have escalation is obviously the markets, inflation happens within all markets. But also under prevailing wage, you have cost increases in labor, and it's contractually agreed upon within each, domain in each county of how much that labor goes up every single year. So you have cost increases. So no matter what you do, if you wait, the cost will continue to rise.
I'm sorry.
I just remembered the question. In your experience in working with municipal buildings, are you aware of any typical opportunities that the municipalities have toward grant funding? Is that like a typical kind of, we're a county, we've lost our county office building. Have you seen those opportunities for assistance?
So not that we typically get into that, simply on another side, we're talking architects and then the county or the school district that have grant writers that go and research out grants that are potentially within the scope of the work they're going to be doing.
There's grants and funding available. Each area is different. Obviously, when I was a supervisor, Ironically, we got $800,000 worth of grant just from our local reps, state and federal, for a farmers market. There's also, I just attended a grant funding meeting put on by an architect. So there is funding available.
And Heidi, I've reached out, I met with Claudia Tenney personally a while back and mentioned this project to her. Her office is interesting in learning more. I spoke with her rep, especially at the Office of Aging Fair, Josh there, regarding this again. And, but we have to have a scope of design, and we have to have a project. Preliminary stuff's not gonna fly, so we have to make a decision. We have to have a project, and she was willing to look at seeing what appropriations that may have not been, that were committed to other projects that were claimed, that may be out there. But again, we have to have a project to begin those conversations with both the congressional and Senate colleagues.
Thank you.
I guess I'm asking for if this is correct. There is no magic way around prevailing wage for a municipality. Get a developer, have them do it, buy the building back. That would be totally inappropriate to do, correct?
I'm not sure.
Okay, but I mean, but we are committed to, as a municipality, to pay prevailing wage. Yes. Yep.
DOL actually came into a presentation and share a department head meetings to iterate that. And yes, we are. They will be on the job site checking. So we'll be required.
Can I pick your brain a little bit on the remediation?
Sure.
I mean, you'll have to forgive me reading these small numbers. Kind
I
of,
know, I do apologize.
That's all right, all right. It's like, holy crap. I see that the remediation you have are approximately roughly $1 million a floor, except for the 6th floor.
So the 6th floor has no spray on fireproofing on the ceiling.
True, but the roof blowing off, the infiltration has to be more substantial on the 6th than it is the other floors. And I know, and I don't know if you know this, but there are other floors that have been abated. And I just wondered if
We
you,
looked into that, Bob, and we couldn't find any documentation to support abatement
Okay.
outside of the 6th floor in the ledge chamber.
okay,
Now, that may be some truth. I can't confirm or deny that, but I will say that we looked into that. We actually had Gary's files. We were able to retrieve some information. And we were not able to find.
okay. So there's a portion of this you had to assume.
Right, we were not.
But there's a lot of this I had to assume.
I'm aware of that. Yep, thank you. And I want to thank you guys for really turning this around in a quick fashion. I do appreciate it. We've wanted to get into this meat and potatoes for a while, so thank you.
I just have a question, I think it's more for you. When you talked about the inventory inside the building and that items were marked for cleaning, based on what, by whom, and then does our staff who resided in the building, are they aware
We have a.
the state of this?
Yeah, no, we have a scope of work or an outline from those here about authorized persons from the county. We have 3 individuals who've gone through spit testing, who were able to wear the mask, the respirators, their IT, because they have to access the building now for the maintenance of computer systems and the basement. So they're going to purchase masks, OSHA certified masks. We've set up their fit testing. They've done the band, whatever they have to do, PPE, tie back the whole thing. And we have 3, I believe 3 individuals, Tom and 2 of his members are able to go in the building and 1 could make it rounds. And they went through the video camera and did under the, I believe Lozier was with them as well. I wasn't there for it. I met him.
So they captured everything that exists
They captured,
there?
they took video and made an inventory, they developed a computer program and they're actually did an inventory. It's actually online.
So like all of our historic documents?
I
or
did not.
historic wall hangings or, do you know what I mean? Like, was it all that or was it mostly just IT?
I don't know. No, it was floor by floor. It was filing cabinets, desks, personal items, things along those lines.
Right.
Also, when we look at the scope of work, I've talked to Mike Waller at Lozier about this as well. We're not paying for, when we move items, we're not paying for the removal of a specific item. We're paying for a block of time, right?
Right.
So the time what can be retrieved. So part of that was taking inventory of what the items are, how much in there, and determining what potentially is for time.
Elaine, is your question though, who's going to have a say in what's retrieved and kept
Right.
and what isn't?
So I've never heard, we haven't ever spoken about this yet to date, and I'm just imagining there are employees who have questions and we're not talking about it, so I'm just.
Didn't you say
Details.
anything in a drawer or a file cabinet or a cabinet does not have to be, go through the decontamination
So if
process?
something's inside a cabinet or inside like a filing cabinet or a drawer,
Mhm.
the outside container would be decontaminated, the item would come outside. We actually have a build out, I don't think anybody's noticed on the outside of the building right now, the plywood chamber on the outside of the building that's been built out. That's the decontamination shower area for entering and exiting the building. And that'll be used as well for the removal of the equipment from the basement.
Can we get Amanda's hand off the cabinet?
Here's something. The fish tank in there.
That's what it is.
There's no more.
There's no more fish.
Since there's no water.
Funny, but not funny.
Yeah. I do have. a
No, go ahead.
So this is probably it's a tough question, but locally, like, is there, like, I know we got to pay prevailing wage, but what's the chances of a local contract contractors from Cayuga participate if we would decide to build or whatever. And I know that there might be a little cost savings with some of our bigger companies, but it also may help our local economy so if you have to like be certified to work on municipality or something.
I mean, there are requirements to doing public works projects. And there are also requirements that the county can make in the contract documents when you finally put that out to bid, whether you get labor from, your county and surrounding, or surrounding counties, things of that nature. There are restrictions that you can put on a project. However, there could also increase the cost. Now, you do have some substantial contractors around this area in the Auburn and Cayuga County that I'm sure would be bidding on this project.
Yeah, we're doing Port Byron right now, and you can't get Steve the plumber to come and do it usually with insurance requirements, all that, but the hope is to get as local as possible.
Yeah, and so in all of our work that we do, we go out and we try and recruit locally, and then we go to the broader region. And we have a good sense of the contractors that work with us on a daily basis in a lot of our school district projects, whether it's in central New York, Rochester, or western New York and Buffalo. So we typically see a lot of repeats, but it's all public, right? It's all public bid.
Well, what I'm hoping is like Steve the plumber, right? That if we had a prime, there was a bigger company, they would use some of the subprime to use some of the local work for their savings and our savings, but as well as some of the local small business. I just didn't know if there was rules around municipalities.
Yeah, I mean, you would have to, when you draft up the contract documents and the AIA general conditions of the project, there should be opportunities to make those restrictions within there. But I can't speak to specific contract language and what I know of how to do that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other legislators? Mr. Dempsey, you have a question?
Just got a question. I didn't hear you answer this. This legislature, hypothetically, if they decided to go with the remediation of the building and awarded that contract to you, how long from start to finish would that take you? So that we could walk in the next day? How long would that take?
So you wouldn't be signing a contract with us in any term. We are not contractors. We are not abatement contractors. We're strictly a construction management firm.
Right.
So I couldn't tell you that. It would really be, what is the time frame that you would be looking for? But you have to get an architect on board with a stamp. You have to get an abatement designer on board with a stamp. And then putting the project out to bid. I estimated that the remediation of the project or of the building would be about a 10-month process from mobilization and submittals being approved and variances being done and the building being posted to basically you being able to walk in there. I identified it about 10 months.
And would that be with all the work that needed to be done in there as well as the abatement?
But it's not the repair.
Dave, my understanding is, within that timeframe, if you look into this, and I love how it's described, the use for design and architectural work, and you're looking at approximately a 2-year build out.
So almost a year for remediation and then another potential year for remodel or rehab.
It could be up to a 2-year. You could have a year and then another 2 additional, depending on the scope of work. But I would, it may not take 3 years, but I would plan not to do that. That'd be fair to say.
Yeah.
Anyone else you want to say?
Can I just to clarify the question I had earlier, have you spoken to anybody, the employees, about doing the assessment of what's there?
No, not at this time.
Okay, just curious.
Just to follow up on that, beyond the public meaning of that and those questions, will there be a memo to the employees about a timeline or kinds of things that they can expect to get returned to them?
Well, I think this body has to make a decision how they want to proceed. Once we make a decision on how to proceed, then we can communicate with the employees. I need to speak to the county attorney as well, obviously, because there's a dollar value to those items. And it's not all those items can be covered. So, I mean, that's also, I think, a labor negotiation as well.
I think we've established though that before we do anything that's been presented today, we have to clean out the building.
That is correct.
Right,
Right.
so maybe we should just figure out a way to.
But at the same time, if the board determines, you know, that let's begin the remediation of the building, we have an inventory. You can sit down, send sheets out to employees and start taking inventory from them as well. Start identifying. We did talk about how we did have a preliminary meeting, a little brief meeting about how this would lay out, about maybe potentially putting up a tent and moving items out there and have them set up and then employees go through and identify their items that came up. But we haven't done an inventory from employees yet. It's more about how do we separate their items and have an area to identify as well.
Jonathan, is there certain things that have to be thrown out?
Well, there's some items we decided, you know,
So like clothes and things that have been in there contaminated, you wouldn't remediate.
Sure, there's some items you wouldn't clean, you can't clean. There's probably some clothes and stuff that can't be cleaned, right? There's also, you know, we have furniture in there that's, you know, was in there in 1966 when they opened the building. Some of that stuff is you know, nobody's gonna save, right?
But some people's personal items may be retrievable, some may
I
not.
would say this, if we're able to retrieve personal items, we'll retrieve personal items. Everything coming out of that building has to be cleaned while it goes in there. And it's my understanding as well from talking to those here, it's less expensive to bring a clean item out than it is to put it in a dumpster and have it carried to the hazardous site in Buffalo. So, you know, as well. So that's a conversation to have.
But last question, none of the estimates you've provided have anything to do with how much it's going to cost to get items out of the building and decontaminated.
It's part of that $9 million.
So in that
It is?
9 million,
It is, okay.
there is contents to be salvaged.
Okay.
And then there's contents to be waste.
Okay, so it is in there.
There's items in.
Okay.
So it came down to like a cost benefit analysis, right? So if you wanted to salvage this item, what is the value of that item? Is it over the amount that it would take to remove it? So there was I think the county put like a $250 item, like identifier on an item. And it said, would it be cheaper for us to replace it at $250 than it is for us to clean it? So that's how we kind of came up with the salvage item.
I had to tell you, this, I want to compliment you guys. This is not great notes, but it's really easy to digest.
Okay.
Because we've sat here and you know, it's hard to digest, and I really like you guys getting us to understand it. So I really appreciate that. And I think the ledge does too, the rest of the ledge, you know, you're doing is very clear. What it's saying.
We did what we were paying to do.
Well, it's a lot of time, but it's, you know, you didn't go, you know, they use a lot of terminology.
And I wanted to make sure that the abatement was broken down by floor as well, so you could set in the total, you know, $9 million cost.
Exactly.
That was
helpful.
by floor,
Very
because
helpful.
obviously the basement's a priority, so I wanted to get a snapshot of that remediation cost, actual scope of work. That's high.
I wanted to thank you for your quick timeline because we have had a very concerned public for over a year and a half. And now we do have options, decisions, financial pieces to analyze and make decisions about, so the public can follow that and know that, you know, something's gonna happen.
And I will say there's many more options that fit within those four, right? So there's more ways to break it down if cost was ever gonna be the biggest considering factor, like repairs, you could always, like I think I said this previously, but you could always repair 3 floors, clean it, remediate the building, renovate 3 floors, see what your space utilization is like, then figure out, could you lease the next 3 floors? You know, and have some return, you know, there's always opportunities, but it's not you're gonna spend, you know, that amount of money no matter what. There's value engineering that can be done, but it really is going to take an architect on board to do user group meetings and things of that nature to get the design going, so we can really get costs that aren't at 100,000 for us and get them down.
Oh, down, pretty much my question. I was just curious now that the data's built out, if we come back and say, what about the square footage? Like, is it pretty, or
I
we
think
just
your
using the line item?
Construction cost, when you did it, was about 750 square feet, is that correct?
Yeah, I think the
Roughly.
initial construction cost was 665 something, and then obviously that's.
Okay.
Anyone else? I would like to personally thank this board for allowing me to hire an outside group to take a look at this for us. You know, it's hard, it's give us some math so we can make an educated decision. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
If no other comments, can I get a motion?
Motion. I'll second.
Okay, all right. Thank you.